Okay, this is a two-part question. How would you look across the organization, the city organization, for budget reductions? What ideas or plans do you have for revenue enhancements and our revenue generation for the city? How would you go about doing this?
If I could ask, when you say, how would we look across the city organization for, can you finish that?
For budget reductions.
And then revenue enhancement?
And what ideas for revenue enhancements or revenue generation for the city?
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and take that one. As I've said a number of times, I would look at the city budget, including salaries of some of the higher paid members of the city staff, as well as some of the services, and I've mentioned as an example, maintenance of the city parks, and particularly the softball and baseball parks, which originally were put in by the city with the idea that the Little Leagues and those using them would maintain them, and it somehow came back to the city, and now it's become a cost that could be looked at. Revenue enhancement, I look at that as another way of saying how would you raise fees and taxes, and so I don't think that that's an appropriate thing to do. Revenue generation, on the other hand, I think is something that our economic development personnel should look at in terms of bringing businesses that are compatible with the city as we know it, but actually generate revenue, and as I said earlier, jobs that have sustainable wages.
I think the city organization needs to be looked at and analyzed to perhaps consolidate departments that have similar functions, departments that have a reduction in use. That way, it would cut some of the costs. I think a good point has been made in reference to revenue generation. I think economic development needs to go out there, court industrial and commercial, get multiple developers and developments possibly interested in the Northeast. That way they can consolidate the need for infrastructure and perhaps share their costs and cost them individually less to be able to put in such infrastructure. I think that would solve a lot of the problems. I think also the salary and benefit programs, salary and benefit scales of the upper management really need to be looked at. And again, they need to be looked at by the council and not by the staff themselves. And I think that those points right there would answer that.
I think that we should look, like I said, across the city organization, and as we have been doing. And I think that also not just looking at the city as an organization, but looking outside the box for options, like was offered for Chief Mort, was going to bring us an extra, save us $80,000. And I think that revenue generation, like was said, is bringing in businesses.
Okay.